China Drive. Lifestyle, features, news you can use. Monday to Friday, twice a day, 11 to 12 and 5 to 7.
每个工作日早晚2次，轻松新闻杂志。
Welcome to China Drive on a beautiful Thursday morning on China Radio International in Beijing. 今天是周四，1月11日，欢迎大家做客轻松新闻杂志，我是Yinan。
And I am Mark Rybchuk. I worked really hard on that one today because I screwed my own name up yesterday. Yes, I did. In fact, I got it
Great,
right
Mark
today.
Rybchuk.
I feel so proud already. It's official. The 4 most hated things by white-collar workers in China are now known. Think you know what they are? Well, stick around and you'll find out if you are right.
Got me thinking. Alrighty, and that's all coming up on China Drive. Well, today, Mark, I was always thinking, what if my parents got divorced or one of them, leave the other earlier? Then what will the other part doing for the rest of her life or his life?
Yeah. I think that'd be a real rough situation to be in if you put yourself in the position of someone who's middle-aged and they get divorced and they're used to a particular spouse or mate the whole life. All of a sudden they have to find a new one. Yeah,
because you can always put yourself in that situation that, it's loneliness, it's old age, then what are they going to do? If they have a particular interest, maybe they'll take care of themselves and hang around with other senior citizens.
Yeah.
That'll be good for them. But what if they don't have any interest, didn't grow any interest, then what will they do? If they have already, separate or with the other part, or the other part has left them because they died early age. So, what are they going to do? Are you against the idea of finding your parents another half?
No, absolutely not. I was going to sort of joke around there and be like, absolutely, that's horrible, but I'm not even going to joke about that because, as you know, I am a hopeless romantic, and but I do have a recognition that not all romances are going to blossom and start younger in your life and actually work out perfectly. A lot of people marry the wrong person or marry a scenario where it's the right person at that time, but that changes over time, so they need to find somebody else. So I can fully condone and support remarrying again later in life. If you don't get it right the first time, try again. If you don't get it right the second time, try again. These things, I think that as you grow older, having companionship is very important.
Yes. Well, I think I'm all for it. I think if I have no problem accepting my parents remarry again if that's for their own good. So that's our topic of the day. We want to ask you, if you're in a situation where your parents are either divorced or one of them have passed away, that's very sad, what would you say if they want to start a relationship with other person? Do you think there is any pros and cons of older people starting a new relationship? 对了，今天的话题我们想一起关注一下我们身边的老人们。如果呢想向你的父母离婚或者是一方丧偶的话呢，你会支持他们再婚吗？对于老人再婚的问题，你是怎么样考虑过没有？你支持吗 ？CD 你的话发送到9191985。And also, the other way you can contact us is our online forum, craezfm.com, or simply call us. Pick up your phone, 688-91111.
Yeah, you betcha. And another thing to think about is not just if you're in a scenario where they're married and they get a divorce, but what if you never find somebody that you like, until they reach the age of maybe 40 or 50 or something like that? How difficult, and do you still think that if someone hits the age of 40 or 50, do you still think that they should be in the market? Should they be looking for somebody else to hook up with? Or have they sort of passed their peak, they passed their prime, they should just forget about the whole thing and move on?
It's that thing, because I think about this already. What if they have, you're getting old and then you lost all the luxury, so to speak, and so you sort of have the face issue. You're thinking about what other people around you think about that.
Yeah.
Whether it's a good thing or not, especially in China, the society is kind of reluctant to accept remarrying or old people getting remarried.
Yeah. Well, what do people think about that? Do they think that that's something that's unheard of or shouldn't happen? Sort of old people still being in the market for a mate. Do you think there's a point in time where you've got to realize that you haven't found that somebody, you're never going to find them? Is that a reality or not? That's what we want to know. CDS a message. Yes, 9191985. We would love to hear from you as always.
SARS writes and says there were so many problems related to remarriage at old age. It's hard for one person with their who has kept their own lifestyle for several decades to sort of accommodate another person. So I agree too that loneliness at old age is unbearable.
I guess that's true. That it's you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I think that's how that. So if you have somebody else all of a sudden, they're not used to your particular traits and idiosyncrasies and that sort of thing. So I mean that's got to be very trying. I would think on any relationship that's started to materialize later on in life.
Yeah, especially when you're already very old, and then to get used to something else or somebody else.
You're younger,
in your life.
You tend to have an open mind when you're younger and you first get into a relationship and that sort of thing, and you sort of grow with the person. But when you've already grown to a particular point in life, it's got to be tough, I would think.
And would you actually take the effort to find spouses for your parents if something like that?
Yeah, I don't know. That'd
you take the effort.
Yeah, I really hope that I'm not in that situation for two reasons. I hope my parents never get divorced. I don't think there's any chance that's going to happen. But if they did, by some obscurity, there's no way I would want to be the one that's setting them up with other people.
You wouldn't want to be involved. You wanted them to find someone for themselves.
No,
right?
I can't imagine anybody feeling comfortable setting up their parents with somebody else. I don't know. Maybe some people do, especially if you have a really close relationship with your parents. Maybe you'd want to help them out and do that.
Yeah, do a little matchmaking.
Matchmaking.
Yeah,
there you go. Matchmaking.
Anyway, we want to know what you think of this. Senior citizens getting remarried. Are you against it? Are you for it? CD your message. Send it over to 9191985. And now Wang Jing is here in the studio with the latest weather.
And thank you, Yinan. A very beautiful weather, as you said, in Beijing today. But it feels so cold outside, with temperatures ranging between a low of -6 and a high of 3. Shanghai may expect some showers, and temperatures have changed a little, with a high of 9 and a low of 4 degrees Celsius. Look at some other cities around China. Zhengzhou overcast with a high of 3 and a low of -5. And Wuhan mostly sunny. Temperatures will be ranging between -14 and -4 degrees Celsius. And other cities around the world, Honolulu, light rain, the highest is 25. And finally, Tunis, cloudy, a high of 18 degrees Celsius.
So Wang Jing, what do you think about our senior citizens? Or
not just senior citizens,
but
let's say older people. Anybody that that's sort of like in the 40s, 50s, because that's just an unorthodox time, I think, to sort of reconnect with somebody or connect with somebody.
All right, I'm totally agree with this idea. And actually, I talked to some old people yesterday, and the biggest obstacle is not from their neighbors, their children. It's actually from themselves.
Okay.
What I think is, it's difficult to find someone who's the right one. We usually say that young people are picky about choosing a partner, right? And I found these old people are especially picky about choosing their partners.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. And because they have an idea, because I've been alone for many years. If I cannot find one who suits me, I would rather keep the state being alone.
Yeah, I can totally understand that, because you've grown of all those years, all the experiences that they had with them, and then so it's sort of hard to identify with anybody else and sort of get used to other person around with you.
Yeah, that's a tough thing. I mean, I found that interesting that they would rather be alone as opposed to find somebody else, because I'm at that point like right now, because I'm young and I still have a lot of things to do and I'm very active and that sort of thing. Not to say that older people aren't active, but they set to have a calmer lifestyle where you're doing more sort of stay-at-home things where it's more conducive to being with somebody else, makes that more enjoyable. So it's interesting that people have that viewpoint where it's like, if I can't find someone that's a perfect fit for me at this age, then I just don't want them. Wow.
That's a good point, because when you're young, you have a lot of activities to be involved with. But when you're getting older, and you sort of want just the other part of the other person lying with you, or reading a book with you, enjoying the life, or taking your time, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you tend
everything
to
has a peaceful.
Yeah, more mellow sort of things as you start to get older.
If you can't agree with each other a lot, then you'll have a lot of argument that.
I guess,
it's not going to be a beautiful picture.
Yeah, that's going to affect the sort of tranquility of the relationship or the things that you like doing.
It's kind of interesting topic, really. I want to share with you this Shanghai listener's opinion. 21792179来自上海的朋友呢发来短信说，当然支持离异后的父母再结婚了，每种感情都不可代替，老人也需要爱情。Our senior citizens really need love, and emotions can't be replaced by any other form of relationship. So I will support my parents getting remarried.
Yeah, I think that's that's fair enough, because you see when especially when you see like particular situations just out in the street, and you see like an older person that's by themselves and they're sort of walking alone and they look sort of upset. You don't necessarily know if they're without somebody or not, but it sort of, it pulls at your heartstrings, I think, a little bit, because you think, like, you just empathize with them. Like, if me in that situation at my point in life, or if that point in my life, if I was alone, how would that feel? Probably not all that great. So I think you have to be somewhat encouraging on that
guys.
scenario.
So that's our topic of the day. What do you think of older people or senior citizens getting remarried? And think of for yourself, if you are in the situation, your parents are something like this, what would you do? CD your message, send it over to 9191-985.
And we've got seniors looking for love in a feature report, and the most hated inventions as decided by working professionals just ahead.
Don't you ever get tired of hearing other people's opinions? Wouldn't you love to have your say for a change? Well, here's your chance. Call the China Drive hotline, and your voice and your opinions can be heard across the country and around the world.
Any luxury restaurant?
Totally different subject of today.
Hi, China Drive team. Rich
Welcome
people.
to Shaman. You can look into the PRI.
Well, I have something to say. All right, thank you very much.
Getting your opinions heard has never been easier. Just dial 6889-1111. That number again is 6889-1111.
Features, lifestyle, news you can use. China Drive.
And you've got it on China Drive. On this Thursday morning, we're talking about people connecting and getting married and hooking up when they're a little older in life, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, maybe into the 100. When is it too old to sort of continue looking for love,
Okay.
Would you support a couple of 90-year-old people looking for love?
Actually, I don't really know whether that's called love or it's just a companionship. It's like finding yourself somebody to help you around with.
Well, there's a question, though. There's a question. How old? Is there a certain point in life? Is there a certain point in life where you no longer can love somebody? Is there a certain point in life where you're never going to fall in love again? If you hit, 87, is that the benchmark where you're never going to love another person again? Or is love an ongoing thing? That's the question that we put out there for you. Love to hear your thoughts on that.
It's not really the question of whether you agree your parents getting remarried, but which age you think you can accept.
Is it possible? Is it possible for people, in the 80s and 90s to fall in love with somebody and get married again? Is that
it's a good angle that we take now?
You bet. 9249 Beijing listener says that I will try my best to get my mom or my dad whatever they really think that they need and they want, and then I'll do whatever they can because they've done a lot for me, and I want them to have a happy and healthy life forever. So I think, they're commenting, 9249 is commenting on the fact, would you help them out if your parents got divorced? Would you help them reconnect with somebody else out there? And 9249 says, yes, of course they would, because they want them to be happy and healthy.
Yeah. Well, nobody really have problems of accepting their parents getting remarried, but it's really the issue of how you're going to make sure your parents are happy. Or, your mom or dad when they get divorced, or, are going to be happy with the rest of their life, or something like that. Yeah.
Is it worth it? Do you think that they would be hurting the opposite person that was involved in the couple? If like, say...
Or maybe you can help both of them to find a new life, right?
Well, what if one finds love and finds marriage again, but the other didn't? Doesn't the child feel a little compromised?
It's really
feel guilty?
Guilty kind of feelings, I guess.
Yeah, perhaps.
Maybe. Well, anyway, we'll keep talking about today's topic. Are you... you have any problems with your parents getting remarried? CD your message, send it over to 9191-985. But now let's have a look at the stories around us.
You betcha. The punch clock at work, instant noodles, mattresses in the office, and cell phones are the most hated modern inventions by working professionals. That's according to an online post listing white-collar workers' 4 most hated modern inventions. 32-year-old Mr. Zhang says the punch clock at his IT company is his #1 workday enemy after a number of unavoidable incidences made him late to punch in for work. Zhang says most of his colleagues are hardworking people, but they feel like their bosses don't trust them when they have to use a machine to evaluate their performance. Number 2 is instant noodles, as mentioned. Many participants cited a lack of time forces many white-collar workers to eat them instead of a well-rounded dinner. So I think they deem that fairly unhealthy. Mattresses weighed in at number 3 because, as some veteran employees say, companies use them to encourage their employees to work overtime by saying they can catch a nap under their desks at any time of the day. Mobile phones...
I do that a lot.
You take a nap under your
Yes.
desk every time of the day?
Yeah, on the mattresses. Huh?
Yeah, maybe you're a fan of mattresses in the office then. These people don't like them. Mobile phones made the list because many white-collar workers are getting a strange disease they dub mobile phone elbow. That doesn't sound pleasant, causing them great pain, and when they spend more than 4 hours on their mobile phones, that's when they're getting mobile phone elbow, so they would rather be without
robot,
it. That's what they're going to have to do. And they're feeling overworked and underappreciated.
And that's very wonderful story. Beijing is getting ready to party as it has doubled its stock of fireworks for this year's Spring Festival. Municipal officials are hoping to drive prices down and offer residents more bang for their buck. Beijing has prepared more than 500,000 boxes of fireworks worth 114 million yuan for the coming Spring Festival that falls on February the 18th, double the amount sold last year, sources with the Beijing Municipal Office of Fireworks say. Beijing residents can buy their fireworks from 2,500 designated stores, up from last year's 2,100. Beijing authorities approved further fireworks wholesale companies this year, bringing the total number to 2. Supermarkets who have the appropriate certificate are also allowed to sell fireworks, the first time since Beijing lifted the 12-year ban on firecrackers in 2005. So we're going to hear a lot of noises, huh?
And you know that fireworks, happy noises and good times, but you know that fireworks are big in China when there is a Beijing Municipal Office of Fireworks, a particular office dedicated to fireworks. That says something.
A lot of effort.
Yes, they're apparently quite popular, hence the office. A man in Xiangfeng, Hebei province, has invented, not intended, he's got some intentions here, but he has invented a kind of men's underwear that he claims is better than mere condoms for safe sex.
I've never heard of this one.
Now you're hearing about it now.
Okay.
You're hearing about it now. Pan Xiangdong recently obtained a patent for his invention. The underwear, they look like normal ones, except for a hole in the center of the front, which is designed for placing a condom. The middle-aged inventor says the combination is much safer because wearing the underwear while having sex prevents more parts of the body from directly touching, thus reducing the risk of transmission of venereal diseases. Pan Xiangdong reportedly took half a year to yield the contraption, which he calls convenient and effective. And for the first time, I have no comment on that story.
You're speechless after reading this story.
I've got nothing to say about that.
Didn't I already, I've seen things like that, with a hole.
Well, I'm sure that I'm sure they probably had different intentions with the hole in the front than the condom. But
Anyway, good for your effort. Starting a new relationship can be very difficult for old people living on their own. That's what we're talking about this morning. And opposition from children is only part of the story. So Wang Jing takes a closer look.
您是婚姻状况？
It's a hotline for a blind date gathering for old people being organized by the Beijing Women's Federation. The staff told us that since the hotline was set up last Thursday, over 800 people have signed up. The oldest is 88 years old. A lot of senior citizens now think of remarrying with ease. Zhang Ming is 85 years old.
I think it's good for old people to find a partner. Old people are afraid of being left lonely.
And Liu Yulan is in her 70s.
My husband and I have started to worry about what we would do if one of us kicks the bucket first one day. Who would help with the trivial things like serving us water when we feel faint? Our children are not around.
The two are from an old neighborhood in Beijing. 1 in 3 of the residents there are above 60 years old, and over 100 senior citizens in the area live on their own. According to Liu Yulan, many of them do want to find a partner, but don't know how and are reluctant to ask. The neighborhood committee says this is not their line of business. Pu Baoxin has worked there for 1.5 years.
Frankly, no. I haven't seen any old people coming up and asking if we could find a partner for them.
Liu Yulan has been acting as a go-between for the aged for a long time, but she has been the only one to tie the knot so far.
They always have a feeling that the person is not quite right because they tend to draw comparisons with their former partner.
Zhang Ming says finding another one is especially difficult when you set your sights on such a small community.
这个事儿可不是别的事儿，你说这两个人合在一块儿这个时候。
This is no trivial thing. They lived for so many years with their former partners and got accustomed to each other. It is easy to pick out problems with the new one.
But even the popular blind date gathering has its own problem. There are way too many women. Song Shuwei is from Beijing's Academy of Social Sciences.
Old men can find women of the same age or younger, but women in their old age are different. They don't have much social contact, and they are more conservative.
The organizer has suspended registration for women to achieve a balance. But how many knots will be tied this time? This remains a question. For China Drive, I'm Wang Jing.
Thank you very much, Wang Jing. What do you think is more difficult for women or men to seek the other half of their life?
I don't know. That's a tough call. I would think initially it's men when they're younger, but as you get older, perhaps maybe it's tougher for women because women tend to change dramatically with age. So, and I don't know, physically, and you know, and I don't know, and it turns that I think women are more tolerant as far as appearance goes towards what a guy looks like. Because guys tend to be stuck on certain ideals still.
Yeah, I think older men tend to look for younger women.
Yeah,
that's my theory.
This is true as well. Yep. So yeah, that's going to make it tough.
Let's have a look at what our listeners say here. Beijing listener 9109，北京的这位听众9109说了，我的父母离婚之后又各自结婚了，他们都生活得很好，我也就有了4个家长。幸运的是，我是2个家庭的宝贝儿，这样呢，他们都开心，我也得到了更多的爱。Well, my parents divorced, but they remarried later on, so they lived very happily, and then I am happy because I'm the baby of 2 families.
Yeah.
In this case, that's something good.
Interesting take on it. Yeah. Before we were talking about, is there a point in life where you're just too old to fall in love again? Well, we've got Beijing listener 4434 that says, "Love is forever. Old people can still choose their own love." So apparently, according to 4434 in Beijing, there is no time limit on love as far as age goes.
I probably would choose. Or maybe the age limit for me is 99.
99.
After 99, I really don't think I would find my parents' lover.
Oh, one day after 99, it's all over then. Okay, but after then, well, that's a fairly significant amount of time as well. So we've got a Shanghai listener that says, it's 0582, says, I agree, it's good for old people to marry again instead of being alone. Anyways, our society is much more tolerant than ever before. So to all those people out there that are thinking about it, 0582 says, just be brave.
Be brave. Well, what do you think? Do you support your parents getting remarried, or are you against it? CD your message at 9191-985.
You bet. And we've got Balls and we got Beckham coming up in the sports on China Drive. It was very important that I said that sentence correctly, because any aberration could have been completely confused. Anyway, before we've got the sports on China Drive, we have Sugar Ray with an ode to the lonely-hearted.
For more than 60 years, CRI has grown from a wartime radio station inside a mountain cave into a major international broadcaster in 43 languages.
This is Radio Peking.
This is China Radio International, CRI, broadcasting from Beijing.
中国国际广播電台
Ici Radio Chine Internationale.
こちらは中国国際放送局です。
Esta es Radio Internacional de China.
Hier ist Radio
Listeners get to know not only the latest developments in China, its relations with other countries, and various international issues, but also the way Chinese people look at themselves and the world around them. China Radio International is the voice of China and the window of its people's heart.
Features, lifestyle, news you can use. China Drive.
We're going to paint a picture here, folks. One with colors and people doing stuff. So get your brushes out, have your palettes on hand. Let's take a look at the paint we have here. Oh, this is going to make a nice portrait of a strapping young object that we like to call the sports on China Drive. The Winter Asian Games are nearing, and there is something rearing. That's the potential for South Korea and North Korea to be strutting together during the event. The South Korean Olympic Committee, the KOC, said on Wednesday that its counterpart to the north has offered to hold a joint march with the South Korean delegation at the opening and closing ceremonies of the upcoming games in Changchun, China. Through a telephone message on Friday, the North, the DPRK, suggested that the two Koreas march jointly in the Winter Asian Games late this month, said a KOC official. They also asked to provide, or for South Korea to provide uniforms for the ceremonies. He added, if the two sides reach agreements on the proposal, it will be the 9th time for the sports delegations of South Korea and the DPRK to march together in the international games, or in international games, since the 2000 Sydney Olympics. The 6th Winter Asian Games will be launched in Changchun on January 28th and last for 8 days. All the 45 members of the Asian Olympic Committee will gather there. And someone else looking to be supplied with a new uniform, former England captain David Beckham is doing that. Beckham will not be offered a new contract with Real Madrid. Beckham will leave us. We will not renew his contract. The club's sporting director, Predrag Mijatovic, was quoted as saying on Sky Italia TV, Real has had been offering the 31-year-old midfielder a 2-year extension on his current deal, which ends in June, but said they wanted Beckham to make a quick decision on his future so they can plan for next season. Evidently, he did not do that. As of January 1st, Beckham has been free to talk with other clubs, with teams in England, Italy, and the United States, all interested in signing him. And a New Zealander has done the unthinkable to many. And no, I don't mean send fan mail into the Sports on China Drive. This man has done something even more unthinkable, or less unthinkable, depending on whether or not either of those are really possible. This man has scored 2 holes in one in the same round of golf. Bill Preston beat the odds of 9,222,500 to 1 by scoring the double while playing golf with his wife Carol at Mangawai Golf Course near Auckland in New Zealand. According to the Daily Mail, he said when the ball went in for the second time, there was a lot of shouting and cheering from the 4 playing on the tee in front of us. 4 people doing a lot of shouting and cheering. That's too bad Moore didn't witness this. His wife added, my reaction to the first one was amazement. The second one was a real shock. I couldn't believe it, nor could the people on the other tee. It was a real thrill. It was the first double hole-in-one in the club's history. Club manager David Barlow said all of us at the club were blown away by somebody getting 2 aces in one round. Mr. Preston's 2 hole-in-one balls will be mounted and his name added to the club's honors board. And in honor of Mr. Preston, I will now say that is the Sports on China Drive.
Thank you, Mark. And somebody else is painting a picture here in our online forum. Paul in Scotland writes again, says maybe it can be hard for an older person starting again in a new relationship, but perhaps also very hard to spend life alone if you once had a companion. Going for walks or traveling or listening to music can be special to share with someone, whatever your age. But perhaps when the older person has saved some money during their life, the sons and daughters might be cautious if the new companion is younger, perhaps a gold digger.
Oh, yeah, that's something to watch out for.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Mm.
And, but Paul was talking there about the sort of need for companionship, how you want to have somebody around, not necessarily the need for love. Now, you were saying during that Sugar Ray song...
I agree with that one.
You're saying that when you start to get older, that there's no way that you're in it for love, you're just in it for companionship or someone...
I don't really think that's love. Maybe it's just a companionship, and you want a housekeeper or somebody to take care of you, like a nurse.
Yeah.
You know, in that sense.
So you want a companion or a mate to basically act as a nurse for you then? You're no longer in it for the actual intimacy of a relationship or anything like that?
Because I just think a lot of challenges when you're seeking the other half in your older ages, and I just don't think it's really pure love. I think it's just, somebody to read a book with you, enjoy the life, and kind of peaceful.
So you don't think that two older or elderly people can't be intimate or romantic anymore? Is that what you say?
Romantic, because I don't see a lot of Chinese older people kissing each other a lot. I mean, I've often seen Western people doing that.
Yeah, but perhaps that's maybe something that when you've been with the same person for that period of time, that sort of affinity to do that goes away. Mm-hmm. But maybe if you meet somebody new, I don't know. I just don't. I understand your point of view. I just don't want to rule out the fact that maybe you could rekindle those feelings of love and romance later on in life.
Don't get me wrong. I didn't say that it's not love or you can't get love, but it's just a very rare chance that you have this kind of thing, still ignited kind of feelings.
I guess so. Well, that's what we want to know. Is that possible to still sort of, whether you support it or not? Do you think it's even possible for two older people,
to find love?
To actually be in love, or are they just sort of hooking up out of convenience or because they want the companionship and somebody to be around all the time?
Yeah.
So we would like to hear from you. CDS message 9191985.
And coming up, lots of news on the Spring Festival and how your life will be affected coming up in business. So stay with us.
Why follow when you could lead? Take the bull by the horns and hear your opinions on the air. Become part of China Drive by SMSing your opinion. It's simple. Pick up your phone, plug in CD, your message, and send it off to 9191985. CD your message, 9191985. That's all you have to do to have your opinions heard across China and around the globe.
感受都市生活的脉搏，未来从此刻开始。
Features, lifestyle, news you can use.
就在轻松新闻杂志。
China Drive.
And it is now time for Business of the Business, which is, in fact, business on China Drive. Railway ticket prices will not be raised for this year's Spring Festival peak travel season. The Ministry of Railways made the announcement Wednesday afternoon. In 2002, the authorities set a 20% floating range on railway ticket prices during the peak season. The railways have routinely raised fares by as much as 30% during the past spring festivals. This practice has generated frequent customer complaints. Railway officials once said the price increases were necessary because China's railways were deep in debt and had to bear an added holiday burden of overtime pay and extra trains. The country's railway system faces a mammoth challenge at the upcoming Spring Festival when a record 156 million passengers are expected to travel via trains.
Mm-hmm. And 83% of the MP3 suppliers in the Greater China region say they plan to lower prices in 2007. That's what a global source China sourcing report says. 53% of the 54 MP3 player manufacturers surveyed expect to cut prices by 10% or less, while 19% foresee price decreases of 10 to 20%, and 11% expect prices to fall 20% or more. The report shows that global demand for MP3 players is expected to increase by 20% year-on-year in 2007. Greater China manufacturers plan to boost 2007 exports to meet this demand. The report also notes how manufacturers in the region are increasing their compliance with intellectual property rights legislation in order to access U.S. and European markets. In 2006, the Greater China region accounted for 52% of all MP3 players produced globally.
It's a lot of MP3 players. Blogging is a growing industry in China. By the end of 2006, the number of bloggers in China had reached 20.8 million, of whom 3.15 million are active authors, according to a China Internet Survey report for 2007. The report says that a total of 100 million clicks on blogger web pages were recorded in 2006. Many public figures, as well as ordinary people, are using web blogs as a convenient way to express their thoughts. In addition to some specialized blog websites, major websites such as Sina, Sohu, and NetEase are working hard to attract bloggers, deeming it an effective promotional method. However, blogs have also led to numerous disputes. In 2006, blog piracy, infringement, and irresponsible words alarmed the government, resulting in a study of the implementation of real-name blogs. China Internet Association counselor Hu Qiheng says that China is mulling over the feasibility of a new way of supervising blogs, which requires bloggers to identify themselves when they register.
Now, there is only 574 days to go till the Beijing Olympic Games. The BOCOG, or Beijing Olympic Organizing Committee, says that preparations for the Olympic torch passage across Mount Chumulama are on the way, as test climbs are set to be conducted this year. But as the deadline approaches, the plan has raised a considerable amount of frowns from the public. So I have collected some different opinions concerning the passage of the Olympic torch across the Holy Mountain. With the help of that little bit of the music, I can't really think of a better tune that could best represent the torch relay plan come 2008 Beijing Olympics. I cannot help but wonder or question the necessity of an extravagant torch passage that conflicts with the Green Olympic slogan. What are people's take on this? Senior consultant for Olympic economy, Gilbert Vankakova, has rather mixed feelings toward this.
On one hand, it will be a great show, and I think worldwide people will watch it with astonishment and admiration if this will happen. On the other hand, people like me, we are also a little bit concerned, because I remember that IOC delegates a couple of years ago were expressing doubts that the cost of the torch relay in general was going much too high.
An extravagant torch relay plan. That sounds like what I just said. Well, anyway, aside from the issue of cost, I think there has been other concerns. For example, the impact, the cost to local environment. So what would be the wisest way or the best way to deal with this problem?
During the torch relay, the team would give the very good example to say, well, we are climbing here for the torch relay, and on the way down we will take all the trash we can collect on our way down. And that might also quiet a little bit the environmental people complaining.
And thanks, Gilbert. That's a very good one. Definitely keep a close eye on whether people will live up to that commitment. Let's turn to some sports-wise issues. Let's imagine how it feels like climbing the mountain above 7,000 meters. And here's an interesting guy, Miss Sports Buff, Siegfried, trade commissioner from Belgian embassy, who has broken once a mountain biking record on Pamir Mountain in Xinjiang. That'll sure give me a racing heart, but how does it feel like? What does it mean of walking above 7,000 meters at the highest altitude?
You get a feeling, especially at 7,000, it gets worse at 8,000, but at 7,000, basically surviving becomes the one focus. So everything is concentrating on breathing. You don't have any thoughts. You're breathing fast, like this, to get in the oxygen. Anything else, you just want to sit. You want to sit and do nothing, and that's what you feel most comfortable with.
Well, I guess you really don't climb Mount Everest like any other mountains.
Sports-wise, that would be really cool to do. From a Chinese point of view, and bring the whole thing down with a boat later on. I mean, these are just, it's sexy.
So sports-wise, it's sexy, according to Siegfried, trade commissioner from Belgian embassy. Well, something else that's sexy, I guess, not from an environmental perspective, neither from the money perspective, but the spirit of the Olympics, and whether that little symbolic meaning will be augmented through the actions of carrying the torch up on the highest mountain. Mountain climbing enthusiast from Beijing, Luo Yi, says definitely yes.
And
Mr. Luo Yi believes no matter what happened, the torch must carry on. And the holy fire that carries the Olympic spirit with it will be carried on and on, no matter it's rivers or lake, or high mountains or low mountains. It is positive actions that have been taken that counts.
a very fitting song for Mount Chomoloma.
It is a fitting song.
Chomoloma.
Crack my brain.
That's good. That'll be really cool. I think in 2008, when the torch goes to the highest part of the world.
All right, and let's have a look.
You're taking that one in. Yeah, that will be really cool, Mark. Whatever.
Yeah, if you listen closely to what I said or ask people for their opinions. Well, Beijing listener, here is, I think it's a very good one. 5607 says, as Bacon said, Francis Bacon.
Yes, Renaissance philosopher and author.
Very famous one. A man dies often as he loses a friend, but we gain new life by new contacts, new friends.
That's true.
Very philosophical.
Yeah, that is very, and that makes a lot of sense as well too. That there's a piece of you that is often there with somebody, and if you lose that person, you lose something of yourself, and then you replace that with somebody else. So
life goes on.
Yeah, obviously supportive of people, finding new relationships later on in life, which is a good thing. But I want to know, on the romantic side of thing, and the sort of dreamy, idealistic sort of viewpoint that I have on things, can you still find true love again later on in life, or maybe you reconnect with somebody that you knew earlier, and then that love is rekindled? I don't know.
That's really romantic, I think.
That's I tend to believe that there are these romantic things out there, but a lot of people don't, and I understand that, and I would like to know. What people's viewpoint on that, whether they think that it's actually true. If I'm just gullible and silly to think that way, I don't know. We've got Beijing listener 5193 that says, as for adults, they have their own thoughts. It's not necessary for us children. I don't know if I'd call myself a child, but I act like one, though. But us children to put too much pressure on them, says Lawrence. So that's
Mark. You're always children in your parents' eyes.
I guess that's true.
I
am
what my dad says.
I am their children. I am their child. So I guess I am always children to my parents.
All wonderful opinions. We'll look for more from you. Send your message and send it over to 9191985. Coming up next is our latest media spin. But for that, we've got you the latest Xinhua Finance.
Xinhua Finance. 新华财经资讯.
Jennifer is sick today, so I will try and fill in adequately. That's the best you can ask for. U.S. stocks managed a modest gain Wednesday as investors fretted over the impact of falling oil prices, but were nonetheless inspired or following the upbeat news from Alcoa Inc. and Apple Inc. at their close. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.21%. The Nasdaq Composite rose 0.63%, while the S&P 500 rose 0.19%. In Asia this morning, Japan's Nikkei 225 opened up 0.10%, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index opened up 0.43%. In China, the Shanghai A-share index opened down 0.23%. The Shenzhen A-share index opened up 0.14%. The Xinhua FTSE China A50 opened up 0.03%, and the Xinhua FTSE China 25 opened up 0.48%. On the Forex markets this morning, the renminbi opened at 7.7977 to the U.S. dollar. The dollar was trading at 119.63 yen, while the euro stood at 1.2951 U.S. dollars.
最新的财经资讯来看，亚洲日经225指数今早开市升0.10%，香港恒生指数开市升0.43%，中国股市上证 A 指今早开市跌0.03%，深圳 A 指今早开始升0.14%，新华富时 A50指数开始升0.03%，新华富时中国25指数开始升0.48%。今早外汇市场美元对人民币开始报7.7977。
新华财经资讯。
感受都市生活的脉搏
Features, lifestyle, news you can use.
未来从此刻开始
China Drive.
最前沿的生活资讯就在轻松新闻杂志。
Let's have a look at our media discussion today. Days ago, several kids in Shenzhen City were entitled Loving Angels to donate books and money to some students from poor families. All these kids were quite little and they came from rich families. When they gave the donations, the Loving Angels were brightly dressed while the poor students were in plain clothes and looked depressed. Well, these little loving kids and their parents have drawn some attention from the public, so now we'll follow Wang Jing to have a look.
And some people criticize this event, saying it's merely a sensational event created for arousing public attention, while one of the kids' mothers asserts it provided a good chance for her daughter to know better about the life of those in poverty. She believes it would not bring the sense of superiority to her kid. Rather, her kid would have a more affectionate heart towards others. And even if the kids do feel superior to those in poverty in this way, it would just inspire them to do more for those in need for help. A non-found Daily Opinion says poor students are from poor families, and these families as a whole deserve more care and help from the rich ones. And it should not be the kids who have no income to do this so-called charitable event. The opinion says the show was designed by adults and the loving atmosphere was fake. An opinion from the RedNet argues that Chinese people still treat charity as something rather ideal. It's natural for the rich to take advantage of charitable occasions for setting up good images and exploring possible benefits for themselves. And in this case, it's natural that the little girl would have a sense of superiority, as her gifts did help some poor students. This fact counts more than whether the event was a mere show or not. Further, if charitable events are always accused of holding utilitarian goals, it would only discourage people to do this anymore, as in Chinese society today, the number of people who are actually doing charitable works is still too small. The public should encourage such cases rather than doubt their intentions. As long as they are doing good to the poor, their acts deserve praise.
Yeah, I certainly encourage all of these activities if it is for the good of the poor people.
But there's nothing wrong for holding such a kind of donation activity. But I still think if they can just let the donators or the people or the rich kids on stage, rather they keep the poor kids off the stage, it is better.
Have both of them on stage and perform something together.
No, this activity exposed them on stage, right? So there's a contradiction between these two groups.
Yeah.
This is the question. I doubt if you really want to donate something, if we really want to praise these children for doing something good, just praise these children rather and leave these poor children aside.
Yeah, I understand that they've made sort of a spectacle of the thing to sort of show these children that they are doing something good, to encourage them to continue to do that. But on the same token, I think you got to weigh in both sides. To the other kids that are there, the ones that are in need, do they really benefit from it being sort of a grand event or anything like that? Like, they probably feel a little bit awkward. So if you could have it as less of a show and more of a sort of intimate, personal connection, where you have the
make
more,
it more practical.
The more benefited kids and the wealthier kids going to see and one-on-one, interact, and then maybe bring a gift or whatever, or a donation to those child, but allow them to interact, on a more personal level, as opposed to making it a sort of ritzy display where everybody comes and watches, because that's where you're going to create the awkwardness there.
Yes, it is. Exactly.
Also, you sort of broaden the gap between the rich and the poor, and the competition between poor kids and rich kids.
Yeah, allow a connection to develop, because that's really how you're going to teach people the need for charity and the need to benefit others as they grow older, because they can actually empathize and connect with them and realize that they are, in fact, people as well, too. So
that's a very good point. And thank you, Wang Jing, for bringing today's media discussion. And coming up next is our latest entertainment news. Before that, we've got you a song. It's called Happiness, 幸福 by Gigi Leung from Hong Kong.
命的心情起起伏伏，还好有你不孤独。我只要拥有这一点点小小幸福，在你的怀里大笑大哭，平凡所以满足。我不能奢求多一点点小小祝福，明天的风雨依然如故，我们微笑恢复。
感受都市生活的脉搏。
Features, lifestyle, news you can use.
未来从此刻开始。
China Drive.
最前沿的生活资讯就在轻松新闻杂志。
Yeah, and you are listening to the morning edition of China Drive with Mark and Yinan. Now let's have a look at the stories happening in the entertainment world. Rain is coming to China. Not that you have to bring in an umbrella. Well, South Korean pop star Rain's 2006 and 2007 world tour will kick off its Hong Kong stop this Friday. The 24-year-old pop star has appeared in Hong Kong on Wednesday to promote his concert. Organizers of the Hong Kong stop announced that choreographer Jamie King, who has worked with acts like Madonna and Britney Spears, will direct the entire world tour. Having wrapped up 2 stops in Seoul and Las Vegas at the end of last year, the star will give 2 concerts in Hong Kong on Friday and Saturday. The tour will later bring the pop star to Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Hanoi, as well as Shanghai. Titled Rain's Coming, the world tour boasts more than 2 billion South Korean won investment, the highest for the South Korean concert tour.
Well, there you go.
Extravagant concert.
That's the kind of rain that all those cities will gladly welcome, I'm sure. I'm sure they would love to have it there. And what we gladly welcome is your responses, your takes on our topic of the day, which is, what do you think of older people, seniors getting remarried, hooking up again? Do you think it's possible? Shacking up. What do you think of older people shacking up again? And I wanted to know if you think it's possible that they're falling in love. If that's possible, or at a certain point in life that you can still do that, or do you lose it? My Face says on the online forum that I admire those elderly people who manage to have a happy life all by themselves. However, I do feel sorry for them just to think of an old person who has no one around when they need a cup of water in sickness or anything like that.
Yeah.
So that's a valid point. But that's, again, going back to the point of them just looking for companionship or someone to be there when they have sort of difficulties in life.
Now I kind of think maybe it's a point, maybe that's also love. It's just feeling nice, being with each other, talking to each other, reading a book. Nothing wrong with that. Shanghai listener 2932 maybe disagree with me because I said earlier it's a rare chance for you to find love at that old age, right? He said, any day we will all getting old one day. So for older people, they can, of course, find love. Because, for example, an old woman who is age of 80 will, when she is falling in love, and she will feel like a little girl again. So those nice feelings.
I agree with them wholeheartedly, and I hope that is in fact the way it is. And I hope that ultimately, everybody finds who they want to be with initially, and that works. But
when
if it doesn't,
discover love again.
It doesn't. I hope I like to think that love's an eternal thing out there. Hopefully. But anyway, let's keep this conversation going with Trevor and Xiaohua this evening from 5 to 7. So keep all your thoughts coming in because they're going to certainly love to hear them as well.
And the one who has just got a baby, Ron ZZ Cafe, that's coming up too. So be sure to tune in. And for the entire crew of China Drive and Mark Rybchuk, I'm Yinan. We'll see you tomorrow right here on China Radio International.